Hi, everybody. Welcome. Nice to see you all. I'm going to give it a couple more minutes to see who else joins and start in just a minute or two. All righty, no new joins in the past minute or so, so I'm going to go ahead and get started and then allow those in as people join. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining. For those that have not met yet, my name is Kat Perlman. I am the Forest Conservation Program Manager here at Circle, and I will be facilitating the Yuba Forest Network meeting this month. So I will kind of get started with just some general updates. One of which I think many of you are aware of, that Mary McDonnell, who was facilitating the network, has moved on to Department of Conservation. So she's no longer at Circle. So we are moving through kind of a transition stage of who's facilitating the network. And I'm going to be facilitating this month and kind of helping with that transition. And then our new Forest Conservation Project Manager, Anne Marie, will be taking over from here, and she'll be facilitating starting at the November meeting. So I think to get started, I'd like to just do a round of introduction so I can meet everybody that I haven't met yet, and everyone can meet myself and Anne Marie, and we can do just kind of a round starting with you, Anne Marie, on who we are, where we work, how long we've been involved with the network, and anything else you'd like to share.
Hi, my name is Anne Marie Holt, and I'm the new Forest Conservation Project Manager here at Circle. I just started at the beginning of July, actually, and I've been doing a lot of aspen restoration work with the Forest Health Department in the Watershed Division here. May I pass it along to maybe Alex?
Yeah, sounds good.
Sure. So I'm Alex Keeble-Toll. I'm a senior analyst in Nevada County Office of Emergency Services. Sorry, I should have kicked it to someone. I'll kick it to Lindsay.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Nita. I'm a project manager for Kemptonville Community Partnership, specifically for the Forest Biomass Business Center. And I will popcorn over to Brianna.
Good morning. I'm here representing Sierra County Land Trust for Lori Oberholzer.
Awesome. Thanks, Lily. You're next on my screen, so I'll go ahead and kick it to you.
I was like, oh, I need to pass it.
No problem.
Hello, everyone. I'm Billy Spearing. I am administrative analyst here at the Fire Safe Council of Nevada County. And I'm going to pass the mic off to Alessandra.
Hi, I'm Alessandra. I'm the new county wildfire coordinator. Very excited to be in this position. I'll be dropping my information in the chat, and I'll pass it off to Jason.
Morning all, my name is Jason Landers. I'm with the Bear Yuba Land Trust, and I am the Land Stewardship Associate at the Land Trust. And I've been participating in these meetings since last fall. And I'll pass it off to Chris.
Hi, Chris Friedel, Executive Director of Yuba Watershed Institute. And yeah, I've been participating since the beginning. Kathy, you're next.
Hey, hi, Chris. Nice to see you. My name is Kathy LeBlanc. I'm the Executive Director of Kemptonville Community Partnership and have been interested and involved in the network since its inception. I'll pass it off to Chris Dallas.
Hi, Chris Dallas. I'm the Central Subregion Area Representative for the Sierra Nevada Conservancy. And who? Don.
Hello? Don Reeves, Nevada County Climate Action Now. The voice is all muffled for me. I don't know if anybody else has a problem.
Don, I can't come in.
Can you hear me, Don? Is anybody else having issues hearing?
It was fine before, but now I think we have too many maybe too many mics open. We need one mic at once open.
Agreed. How about now? How does it sound?
It sounds
Better?
good to me.
Okay, great. Let's see, who has not gone yet? Allison, how about you?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Allison Thompson. I'm the Executive Director of the Yuba Watershed Protection and Fire Safe Council. Yeah, I actually, along with Mary and Andrew back a couple of years ago, helped start the Yuba Forest Network. We've been involved in different levels since then. So I'll be watching it growing. Also worked with Lindsay and Kathy on the FBBC too. So yeah, great to see everyone.
Good morning. My name is Debbie Rasmussen. I'm the EPA Director here at Enterprise Rancheria. Nice to see everyone.
Great, thanks. I think maybe just you, Kate.
Okay. Hey, good morning, everyone. I am also here representing Bear Yuba Land Trust. I am their stewardship manager, so I oversee our fee title lands, our preserves that we own, and some of our restoration projects. And I can't say that I've made every meeting. Sometimes I'm in the field, but I try to join when I can, and I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. Thank you. I think that's everybody.
I
so.
haven't gone yet.
I saw your name in the chat, and I think in my head I thought that meant you talked. Go ahead, Julie. Sorry.
I actually also missed the prompt. Sorry, I was a couple minutes late.
Oh yeah, no problem. We're just doing a round of introductions and yeah, who you work for and how long you've been involved with the network.
Sure. My name is Julie Fair. I work with American Rivers, which is a national organization, but we have a regional office in Nevada City. And so we work locally within the Yuba watershed. And we have a project along the South Yuba on private land for fuels and prescribed fire. And I've been involved, I think, since the beginning, just being a part of meetings.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Julie. Sorry about that. Okay, I think that is now everybody. So I wanted to go ahead and kind of just jump into a round robin of updates just to have, it's the first time we've convened since I believe February. So we did miss the May meeting. So this is the first time in about 6 months we've been together. So I wanted to really open up the floor to just have any relevant updates or comments, events, things that have happened within the network. And I actually will go ahead and start. I wanted to just share an update about the North Yuba Forest Partnership Project. So I think most are aware that Circle is involved as one of the partners, including facilitation work. And my update is really just around the release of the draft EIS for the project. So it's been on a timeline for release of that to the public and the opening of the public comment period this fall. It's been pushed back a little bit, but we are currently still on schedule to have, the draft EIS completed in October, e-filed, and then the notice of availability in the Federal Register is scheduled for November 4th. So that 45-day comment period from the public will start on November 4th. So end of the year, pushing it close to holiday season, but kind of cutting it in right beforehand. And there will definitely be more information released about that in the coming months. So we do plan to have, of course, public meetings before the release of the EIS or the draft EIS, later in the fall. But I wanted to just put that timeline on everyone's radar for those interested, because I know there's been a bit of a delay. We've had, just questions about the progress of what's going on and when people can expect to get more information on that. So currently scheduled for November 4th, that BIS will be available for public review. I'm happy to take any questions on that too, but that's kind of the update from my end, from Circle's end. And I just wanted to, allow anyone else to speak up who has anything they'd like to share. Also, I wanted to mention, I'm sure you guys saw, but that this is being recorded, so just keep that in mind.
I can jump in with some project updates. So the Fire Safe Council of Nevada County, you guys may have remembered, August of last year, we received a $4.9 million grant from CAL FIRE for forest health resiliency. This continues the objectives we had already identified in the Western Nevada County Community Defense Zone project, which is a lot of the forested acreage along Highway 20 above Nevada City and out to and through the Cruzon grade. So that grant that we were awarded last year, we've been working with our partners at the Forest Service, and that we've identified 30 unit locations for treatment with 2,200 acres overall. And we are 1 year into our 3-year project, and we've completed approximately 1,000 acres of work already. So making great progress, and we're pretty excited about that. A lot of the prescribed fire that was happening towards the end of 2021 were parts of this project. Units that have been completed with various treatments are along Bear Trap, the town of Washington, and Madrone Springs. There's additional work happening out on Cruzon. There is no prescribed fire happening at this time of the year, obviously, but we're also completing a lot of hand line and covering piles and getting prepared for more prescribed fire this winter. We also just received our signed contract for everyone's favorite project, green waste and chipping. So CAL FIRE signed those documents. We've got that approved, but we don't have an opening date yet. So most likely we won't have major updates for green waste until the fall, and we'll see based on weather conditions and permitting process with the county whether or not we can do green waste in the fall. There's a possibility it will have to wait until the spring. That has a tendency to happen that way, but chipping will resume as soon as we have funding, and we'll go back to the suggested donation program that we typically run. Those are our 2 major updates. We'll be at the fair. So we did the fairground sponsorship this year and the KNCO booth sponsorship. So if your organization does not have a fair booth and you want to make yourself available at some point, just let me know and we can grant you some table space at our location. Or if you have any pertinent announcements or things that you'd like to discuss regarding wildfire fuels reduction or forest resiliency, just let us know, and we could do a partnership spotlight of the day on KNCO. Try to be mindful that there's only 5 days, but we could probably schedule some airtime for you guys if you need, if you'd like to participate as a participating sponsor or something like that. That's all I can think of off the top of my head, and I feel like I've been talking for a long time, so I'm gonna let this go now.
Thanks, great updates. I'm sorry if you said this. Are you at the fair every day of the fair? All 4? Okay, great.
Yeah, that's affirmative. We have from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. we have the live broadcast at the KNCO gazebo.
Gotcha.
So that will be broadcast throughout the fairgrounds as well as live on the radio. I think once or twice an hour they do radio spots.
Awesome, very cool. Thank you. I actually have one more update Anne-Marie just reminded me of, and I did want to mention this, that the state task force, the California Wildfire and Forest Resilience Task Force meeting in September is in Grass Valley. So Circle is helping to plan and facilitate that. It's a 2-day in-person meeting at the fairgrounds, as well as field trips. So there will be field outings associated with the meeting as well. I don't have more information yet as far as schedules, outlines, official invitations, but I'm definitely happy to distribute that once they come out. And I think most people will probably be seeing that, but just in case anyone hadn't heard, it will be local in September, which is exciting. So hopefully we'll all get to see each other in person. Okay, anybody else want to chime in?
I have one comment. Billy talking about their new large Forest Service project made me think about the stakeholder map that that Circle put together a while back, and I guess I'm wondering, well, A, if Circle has any capacity to like continue updates on that map, and then B, it would be great if everyone could submit any new projects that they have to that map. I don't know if the Fire Safe Council projects are, I know like certain ones are on, but it would be great to see those GIS files on that public forum, because it's something that we all, I think, can refer to when we do grant proposals, because there's often questions about what are nearby projects, how does your project interface with other projects, and I'd really love to see that get updated. So I don't know if you guys can, at Circle Cat, if you guys can maybe send out a reminder and re-up the instructions for how to submit GIS files.
Yes, I would really like to continue with that stakeholder map. Kat, do we get funding to maintain that that map on the website with the Catalyst Fund?
We do, yes. So we do have funding to continue that. So we're kind of re-upping our our capacity as far as that work. I know we haven't updated it in probably 6 months or so, but that is a good segue. I was wanting to talk about that, and I think that does make, like, in context of the fire safe work, excellent segue. So I think what we need to do on our end is either get with Mary or look through file to figure out what the process was for that, and then send it out to the group to refresh everyone's memory on how that works, because I'm not actually sure, but I think it was a fairly, I don't know if there was a shared folder or if it was direct sharing it with us and then we update the map on our end, but I can find out and definitely remind everybody, because I think it would be an excellent thing. It is one of the resources with the network that I was wanting to just talk to the group about, and it does seem like something that is really valuable, and especially moving forward, and we'll talk a bit more about this later in the meeting, but with landscape planning and regional resource kits being developed for all the areas, for some of the task force work, I think it's definitely something that we want to have updated and functional. So yes, in short, the answer is yes, and we will figure out what the process is going to look like, and then get back to the group about how it's going to work.
So I have an update from OES. With my new position, we're going to start gearing up for preparing the countywide CWPP update. So feel free to reach out if you have any input or if you want to know a little bit more about that. We are going to at some point be soliciting, information from you guys, since you're the local experts, and we really want to find out how we can find places of collaboration so we can improve wildfire resiliency across the county. We also anticipate that the CWPP will come with a dashboard that will really allow it to be more of a living, breathing document rather than just like a printed book on a shelf. So keep an eye out for that, and feel free to shoot me or Alex any emails in the meantime.
Thank you. I guess I am kind of thinking, because Alex and I spoke about the dashboard a month or so ago, but am wondering if you guys have thought about, or if you have any current ideas about how the stakeholder map could contribute to the dashboard, or if there's like a way to, maybe we could talk about this again another time, but we can maybe link it together and just kind of brainstorm with the group on if that could be a partner project.
Yeah, Kat, I think absolutely, because you guys have already built the base. So I think like a conversation there is around like, how do we not duplicate efforts and make sure that kind of there's a one-stop shop for comprehensive information. So however that shakes down, we know you guys have done a ton of work on it, and we're just interested in seeing what the opportunities are for leverage.
Definitely. Awesome. Yeah. So I think just based on timing of everything unfolding, that at current plan is for us to just kind of get the mapping tool itself like continued up and running, update. It is up and running, but updated, and then discussing, yeah, what next steps for integration or what that might look like. But just wanted to mention that because I know we talked about it, and I think it's a great idea, and definitely gives energy to the tool itself as something that's valuable. So not something that was just made and then hasn't been used, but it's something that I think actually has some applications. Awesome. Okay, well, if there are no other comments, I am going to hand it over to Alex for our first presentation. Oh, Billy, go ahead.
Alex, are you going to discuss AFN?
No, but I'll let you do that, Billy, if you want to add that in. Yeah, no, I'm going to focus on shaded fuel break. So if you want to quickly chime in on AFN, it's an exciting partnership between Fire Safe Council and Nevada County. So take it away, Billy. It's an awesome project.
Yeah, I'm going to drop a link in the chat. The long anticipated access and functional needs program is open. We are hopeful to start actual implementation next week for the folks that have already been approved and had their properties environmentally and historically cleared by FEMA. But what this is, anyone who is low income and senior citizens, or any person who is disabled and low income, or disabled and incapable of clearing their property or paying someone else to do that work. FEMA funds will pay for defensible space clearing, which is 100 feet around their homes and structures, but also can include driveway access or roadside clearance if that is deemed necessary by the county defensible space inspectors or our team as well. So it's a great program. We are looking for 600 additional recipients for this funding. So there is a slight delay because folks will have to have their properties. The FEMA will have to do the environmental review and historical preservation review. So it's not as though you can apply on Friday and we'll see you on Wednesday. There is a little time there that has to be taken, but we're looking for 600 additional people to apply and be approved for that program as quickly as possible.
Awesome, that's exciting. Sorry. As I'm just curious for that, outreaching for additional applicants, I guess, for the program, if there's any assistance that can be provided by anybody for that, or if you guys have a process in place for how you're continuing to do that.
So we have our outreach coordinator and our administrative staff are willing to help anyone who is just having difficulty filling out the paper forms. But there is an offer of assistance from 211 Connecting Point if that makes it easier for someone with a particular need or disability. We had someone that was legally blind yesterday requested some assistance. So there are ways that can happen. The folks over at Freed are willing to help. I believe there are even offers of help from the county senior services department. So if we can do it anyway, we will find a way to make it happen. I even have someone driving to another person's home today to try and help them fill out the application. So we will find a way.
Awesome, great. Thanks so much for sharing out on that. Any other questions before we get into presentations?
Hey, I'll just jump in here real quick. Over here from Yuba County, it's
yes, there you are.
Great to hear all the awesome stuff you guys are doing there in Nevada County. I admire the scale you guys are doing it at. We have some similar projects. I won't go into them right now, but just want to put it out there. Invite everyone to our monthly council meetings. We have our Fire Safe Council meetings are the second Wednesday of every month. So our next one is actually next week, next Wednesday. So you can get on our email list at our website. I'll put that in the chat. It's just yubafiresafe.org. But yeah, we can get on with the meeting. But yeah, really good to hear all these great projects, and maybe we should connect and see how we might be able to replicate some of those in Yuba County too, because you guys are doing great work. So thanks.
Yes, thank you. I'll make sure to share out the link you mentioned in the meeting notes too. All right, awesome. I think Alex, it's your turn. Do you need me to allow you to share screen? I think I haven't done that yet. Let me do that.
Yeah, and apologies for any technological rockiness. Like I'm still not super good at transitioning between Zoom and Teams. Like my brain has a block on like, oh, how do we let's see, maybe I'll be all right. Are you guys seeing my screen?
Yep,
Yeah,
looks good.
with perfect. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Kat, for letting me come and chat with the Yuba Forest Network. I know I kind of intermittently participated when I was in the nonprofit world. But OES basically just kind of wanted an opportunity to put it out there to all of you folks who we know are working on these various forest health and wildfire resilience projects across the county and beyond, depending on your respective missions, and just let you know what we're up to, because we are gearing up for this rewrite of our CWPP, and we're really cognizant of the fact that a CWPP can be either a really excellent vehicle for collaboration, or it can kind of leave out different segments of the population that are working on these important projects by just not being cognizant of all the great things that are happening out there. So essentially, I just want to tell you, like I said, what we're up to, in hopes that that can help to inform, your sharing of what projects you're up to and the opportunities for collaboration and making sure that we really create this awesome vehicle with the CWPP update. So Nevada County Office of Emergency Services, we take basically an agency-based perspective in terms of addressing forest health, in that we're kind of all about community protection. That's basically our mission. And we are responsible for coordinating across different county departments, cities, local districts to mitigate against, prepare for, and respond to wildfire. So less of an ecological focus and more of a people focus. Interesting, it's not advancing. Let's see here. There we go. Okay, so this is kind of just a silly trivia question for you guys, because we do interact with the community a lot. And I know on the ecological end of things, this is a well-versed group in terms of what we're looking at from a maintenance perspective. So my trivia question is, what do all these features have in common? And what they have in common is that they're infrastructure that has to be maintained. And so this is something we're really trying to message in our community, that, a lot of people understand that you need to maintain a road if you want to be able to continue to drive on it and not end up in potholes, that type of thing. For many of our community members, there's sort of less awareness of basically ecological systems as being infrastructure and being that green infrastructure that we need to maintain. And so something we're trying to help message is, we have these systems, they need to be maintained just like a road if we want to continue to have both ecological and sociological benefits from them. So, bottom line, as I think we're all aware, we haven't done a good job maintaining our infrastructure. And so as a result, we kind of now have this problem. And I'm not going to lie, when I was creating this slide, like the Taylor Swift Bad Blood song, like I wanted to be like, we have a problem, we can't solve it. I have an 11-year-old daughter. And so at any rate, but I definitely think we can solve it, and that there's a lot of, opportunity for doing synergistic things in Nevada County. So I think I'm preaching to the choir here, but we know we live in a fire adapted ecosystem, that fire was used for thousands of years to maintain these landscapes. And what we're seeing now in our forests really isn't natural. It's the outcome of, 100 years of fire suppression. And so on the ecological end of things, I know that, you guys are all aware that basically if we have unhealthy forests, we're at risk of things becoming carbon sources, not carbon sinks. And, all it takes is one wildfire and we've set back all of the vehicle mile traveled reductions that are happening in urban areas. So it's really important to invest in these projects in the Sierra. From OES's perspective, we're looking at it from a socio-psychological end of things, which is basically, we've built our homes and towns in the wildland urban interface. And that means that at any moment, this rural lifestyle that is the reason why so many people moved here is really at risk. I love this wheel because it just basically communicates, the fact that the we've got a lot of deferred maintenance to do. We have these really catastrophic fires that have been happening. 7 of the top 20 most destructive California wildfires in recorded history have been since 2020. As you guys all know, last year was the first time in recorded history that 2 fires went over the Sierra Crest. So at the county level, we're thinking about this in terms of if we have a fire in Western Nevada County, there's a very real chance that it could travel over the Sierra Crest into Eastern Nevada County. So we're really viscerally connected on this wildfire issue, probably more so than we ever have been in the past. I'm sure you guys are aware, we all live in this very high fire hazard severity zone. From the county perspective, we're not just looking at the fact that there's all these homes built in the WUI, but the fact that we have 562 miles of county roads that need to be maintained for ingress and egress, that there's 1,500 miles of private roads that are used by residents to get to and from work, but also in the event of evacuation that folks would need those to function as a safe way out. And we know that our county has all these rich cultural and ecological resources in addition that are at risk. This is looking at historic downtown Nevada City, which is obviously, has many rich resources from that historic perspective. We've also got the Rood Center here where I'm standing, which is the county seat. So a lot of these social resources that our residents rely on are kind of sitting right here in this WUI setting. And so basically, we're interested in better understanding the opportunities and constraints for working together in terms of achieving, community level wildfire resilience, basically across all things, protecting the ecology, protecting the historic integrity of where we live, and then protecting life and property. And community is really the thread for OES, right? That's for us, that's the piece. Everything that we do has to basically have a nexus with protecting our community. So for those of us who work in the grant world, you get that menu of things to select from when you're writing a grant. And it's like, is it benefiting an endangered species? Is it benefiting a unique ecosystem? And you might choose one of those as being your primary benefit. And then, the multiple benefits you're going to add on are, well, it also has a benefit to, community wildfire protection, those types of things. For Nevada County, we're always going to choose the community as our primary benefit. And if there's ecological and cultural benefits that are, one of those additional multiple benefits of our projects, excellent. But our first choice is basically protecting people from loss of life and property. We are directed through the Board of Supervisors, which basically means that we're directed through the community. So we take our lead from the community. Some of you may be aware, but we've had a survey going, basically trying to get a sense from our community what their priorities are around wildfire risk reduction. Not a huge surprise that the top priority is preventing and containing wildfire. And so a key mechanism that we use to help accomplish that is by basically implementing these large shaded fuel break projects. And I'm excited to see that many folks that we've partnered with on the past on this, and that we're looking forward to partnering with on the future or on this call. But essentially, that's a vehicle that we're using to help address the wildfire risk in our community. So for lots of people working on the ecological end of things, a shaded fuel break is an excellent model because it does provide that ecological benefit in terms of maintaining habitat integrity. Many times you're reducing the amount of overstory and therefore providing conditions where you can have a really rich and robust understory that historically was the case. If you talk to some of the indigenous tribes of the area, they are really interested in seeing a restoration of the diversity of species on the ground that you just don't see because our forests are so overgrown. There's not enough light getting down there, so you've seen a real depletion in that diversity. From an OES perspective, a shaded fuel break is an excellent tool because it basically breaks up the continuity of the fuel, which prevents wildfire from going into the treetops, and it basically reduces the heat intensity so first responders can get in there. So we want first responders to be able to get in and stop a wildfire. And so that allows for the protection of life and property. And that's why this is attractive to us. And then in addition, we hear from a lot of folks that they don't want to see a fire break type model because they moved here for the rural character of the forest and they like living in the WUI. They're now afraid that they may be at risk from living in the WUI, but a shaded field break is a happy medium in terms of retaining that forest integrity that people like to see. So how many are needed? We rely at the county level on basically two primary strategic plans to direct where we do our work. The CAL FIRE Nevada Yuba Placer Unit Plan, and then the CWPP, which our CWPP is really outdated. It was last updated in 2016, hence the urgency with making sure that does get updated. You know, we want to really engage with other folks who are working on this issue, and we're looking to basically, you know, fund these strategic projects and work with implementation partners to get the work done. So CAL FIRE has identified about 9 priority shaded field breaks, and that's about 9,000 acres in Western Nevada County. And then in addition, the fire experts in Eastern Nevada County have identified about 9,000 additional acres. And so if we're looking at, you know, a cost of about $4,000 an acre, we're talking about $72 million in work that needs to be done. So that's a lot of grants to write and implement. There's a lot of work to be done. Partners are needed. So I just want to quickly go over some of the priority projects that we have on our radar. These aren't all our projects, but they're projects that the county is very interested in seeing push forward because we do think they're really strategic for helping us achieve our wildfire risk reduction objectives. So we're always looking for ways to partner with folks on the ground in terms of implementing them. The county can be a really great vehicle for securing and administering funding, but we're not going to be the folks getting out and being the boots on the ground, and we're not necessarily going to be the folks with, you know, the relationships on the ground in some of these different communities. So starting at the top, South Yuba Rim, this is a 6,000 acre planning area that will ultimately, we hope, result in 800 acres of treatment. We have a couple of proposals under review with this. Our on the ground partner is Yuba Watershed Institute for obvious reasons. They have been working up there for a very long time, have really excellent relationships, and understand the unique ecology of that place. Deer Creek, this is not one of our projects that we're currently working on. Fire Safe Council has applied for funding on this, but we do engage with that local Firewise community. And, you know, we've gotten a lot of feedback from them how important it is. And then at a county level, it's an important project because the Rood Center, you know, sits kind of at the upper end of that project. And so from a county infrastructure perspective, it's an extremely important project. And, you know, this project also has a bunch of different BLM parcels in the vicinity that we're trying to figure out ways to address. So a lot of rich collaborative space to work in there. Ponderosa Phase 2, so kind of moving down to the middle. This is a 600 acre project. We've secured congressionally directed spending and county match to address that. Ponderosa Phase 1 is the lower piece of the Ponderosa project, and that project wrapped up this March, and that was a partnership with Fire Safe Council of Nevada County. They were really the ones doing the work. We just were the grant administrator. Another project that was recently awarded funding is Woodpecker Ravine. That's 414 acres. CAL FIRE just recently funded that. And then we've also got South County, which is on here as Lodestar. It's the South County Lodestar Shaded Field Break, and that's 339 acres. And that's a CAL FIRE project as well that we're working on in direct partnership with Fire Safe Council of Nevada County. So just give you a sense, all of these projects involve working on private property. So for many of you, you know, you're doing these massive projects, maybe on federal land, so you're dealing with one landowner. But for instance, for the South County project, it's 339 acres, but it's 226 parcels, which means you're dealing with slightly less than, you know, 200 individual property owners to get the work done. So the acreage is small, but the collaboration is huge, as is the community benefit. And a lot of our projects focus on those ingress egress routes. So you can tell, you know, by Lodestar, that project is all fuel break along roads, basically to make it easier for folks to evacuate and first responders to get in. just to geek out on fire history really quickly. So this map shows fire history for Western Nevada County. Basically, when you're looking at the red, you're seeing fire history, and a darker red means that it's a more recent fire. And then where the shaded fuel breaks that were on that last slide kind of fall within that larger scope of fire history. And I guess the main thing to note is, right, these fuel breaks are situated where there hasn't necessarily been recent fire history. And from a protection of life and property perspective, that's important because when first responders are looking for ways that they can stop or mitigate a wildfire, one of the things they look at is there a recent burn scar or is there a shaded fuel break? Because those are places where they can actually make a stand. So kind of what we're showing here is that these projects are situated in areas where there hasn't been a history of fire. And so they're therefore strategic from a protection perspective. So I'm just going to go through a series of maps that show you a little bit more in depth these projects. I mentioned South Yuba Rim is 6,000 acre planning area, 800 acres of treatment. It's basically going to knit together a bunch of existing projects that both Yuba Watershed Institute has and CAL FIRE has, VMPs, to create this really long strategic line of protection on the South Yuba Rim. So we're guessing that this is going to take about $4 million for planning and implementation. And from the OES perspective, that's super strategic because at the implementation stage, we're going to be protecting about 177 structures with a rebuild value of $59 million. So if those structures were to burn, that's how much we would anticipate it would cost folks to rebuild. And that's assuming that we're only talking about structures that have been permitted through County of Nevada. So anyone who happens to have a barn or other infrastructure that has not been permitted through County of Nevada, like that would be an additional loss on top of this 59 million. And just to give you some context, the Rice's fire, which occurred recently, obviously down by Rice's Crossing, that was 900 acres. And early estimates are that that cost about 13 million to suppress. So basically the cost of implementation of this project is about a third of what suppression of a similar implementation area is, irrespective of what your replacement value would be. So why it's strategic for OES in terms of protection of life and property. So Deer Creek, this is, as I mentioned, not our project, but we know that it's really important for the community. I think, and Billy can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the estimates for this are it's about 1,600 acres and about $7 million for this project. And then an important note as far as like knitting together pieces across private and public lands is that there's about 20 BLM parcels and they range in size from less than an acre to 60 acres that are sort of nested at different points down here. And so this one would obviously directly protect Nevada City and many of the county's important social services and other resources housed at the Rood Center. Ponderosa West, in the yellow, you're looking at the treatment that was accomplished by Fire Safe Council of Nevada County on the ground. And that was a $3.5 million, about 1,300 acre treatment area. In the upper rectangle of green, that's what we're looking to treat with the congressional earmark funds. That's 600 acres. There's also kind of down by that red flag in the middle, 400 acres of BLM land that's currently unfunded for treatment. Our federal funds can't be used on federal land. So that's kind of a piece that we're still looking to figure out how we'll address. And in terms of protection of life and property, within 3 miles of this project, there's 3,000 improved parcels where those homes would have a risk of ignition and therefore that replacement value. This is just another picture of the Ponderosa West project to give you a sense of literally how many individual properties are within these project areas that we're working on. So this is like a parcel map overlay. So you're really seeing kind of the population density story here and the story of how many people are affected by these projects and then how complex they are in terms of, you know, having to go out and get right of entry from all these landowners and get buy-in from all of them that this is an important project. And black stars are critical infrastructure. So this is obviously directly protecting a lot of critical infrastructure. Woodpecker Ravine, This one's a $2.1 million, 410 acre project. It's basically along strategic roadways and ridge lines, tying together ingress and egress routes across strategic ridge lines to provide protection in the Woodpecker Ravine area. This project is part of a much larger model for resilience that is basically looking at home hardening, defensible space, community education, in addition to the shaded fuel break. This is funding we applied for through the FEMA BRIC program. And we did get word this week that that project has been recommended. So that's really exciting because that's a much larger project in the multi-millions that basically would create a model of a wildfire resilient community. I think South County shaded fuel break is my last one. So again, this is telling the story of where the county focuses our work. We're focusing our work along ingress and egress routes. Our projects are taking place in areas where there are a lot of residents. So this is a project I mentioned, it's 226 parcels, basically on 339 acres. So small acreage, huge number of stakeholders involved in this project. This is another one where Fire Safe Council of Nevada County is going to be our implementation partner on the ground. And we're really excited about that because I keep mentioning, like, it involves a lot of community engagement, and Fire Safe Council has such a rich relationship with our fireways communities and that really important on the ground presence through their AFN program, through the Defensible Space Advisory visits. So we're really relying on those personal relationships to get this work done and acting as basically a grant writing and administration vehicle to help these projects happen. So the last thing I'm just going to throw out there is maintenance. And I know you guys kind of are all aware of this, but because the county is public facing, you know, we do hear from folks that, you know, oh, you're investing all this funding in implementing these projects, but then we see them get overgrown. And so you get people who are concerned with that piece, and it's completely valid. We all know that we implement these projects, but then we have to maintain them. So this is just like some quick back of the envelope math, looking at what's the difference if you maintain a project. CAL FIRE recommends that you maintain every 2 to 3 years, or within 5 years, basically, you're back to stage one. Your investment is lost, right? You're back to where you started. So if we assume that implementation is about $4,000 an acre, and then we do at year 3 maintenance, maybe it's $1,000 an acre, you know, a significantly lower investment. And then maybe after you do that first round of maintenance, you can use fire as a maintenance tool. You know, that's going to bring the price point way down below $500, but I just use $500 as a rough estimate. Over 20 years, you're going to look at basically it's going to cost you $8,000 an acre. And it's going to hit like a stable point where you're only spending, you know, that $500 or less per acre every 2 to 3 years to maintain that. In contrast, if you don't do your maintenance, you're looking at basically a re-implementation scenario every 5 years. And over 20 years, that ends up being a cost of $20,000 an acre. So I want to commend Sierra Nevada Conservancy for offering in their most recent funding round maintenance as a priority, because we all know it's super important to maintain the work we've done. And it just makes sense. It maintains the protection of life and property, and it's less expensive. So it's a better use of investment. So that's what I've got. Basically, as Alessandra mentioned, we welcome interaction with any and all of you as we gear up to develop our new CWPP. And I think we'll talk more later in this meeting about the dashboard and other ways to engage on this. So thanks, Kat. Appreciate being here. Do you guys have any questions?
I just have a note of appreciation for OES really taking on this coordination role for some of these large projects. It's really a critical role for our community, and I'm really happy that you guys are stepping up to take it on.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Great, really informative. I have a question. It's kind of a broad question. So if there's not really an answer, that's okay. But I'm wondering, and I'm assuming that these projects and planning for the the future of the projects that haven't been implemented yet. If that's kind of informing the updates with the CWPP and kind of how those are interacting, and like if there's, yeah, just like kind of what the tie-in is between those, just for general curiosity.
Yeah, so most of these projects were pulled out of the CAL FIRE NEU strategic plan. Basically, like that's how they've been identified as priorities. And there's definitely a nexus between the NEU strategic plan and the community wildfire protection plan in that, you know, they should be consistent and not divergent. But what we're looking for in our CWPP is for it to be a much more comprehensive and community-driven vehicle for identifying priorities. Because what we have heard from folks we've interacted with is that the CWPP as it exists, and as CWPPs sometimes do exist in communities, like they're not a very good vehicle for people to collaborate around, because folks who are working on the issue don't see the projects that they've identified as priorities or that they're hearing from the stakeholders they work with are priorities. They're not reflected in that CWPP. So then people just go off and do what is important, right? And there's no single vehicle that's kind of coordinating all of that. So the projects I've presented on will likely be pulled into the CWPP because they've been identified by our local fire experts as being really strategic and important. Most of them will likely end up in there as projects that need to be maintained, not projects that need to be implemented. And what we're really interested in getting out of the CWPP process is casting that wide net and capturing, you know, all of the projects that the diversity of organizations in Nevada County are working on that are reflective of those on the ground community needs and priorities that are being pushed forward.
Awesome. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm also wondering, and I know you and I talked about this a little bit too, and it's kind of early, but if you have just some, for like what you're talking about makes sense kind of in the context of, you know, the Sierra Nevada landscape regional planning too. And so I'm wondering if you guys have any sort of early stage ideas about that, how what you just mentioned might play into that landscape strategy or that regional strategy.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't have a good answer for you, Kat, because we're just starting to dig into it. I will say that, you know, originally a somewhat bare bones process for developing the CWPP was kind of identified by the county. And as we're digging into it more, and with Alessandra as the community wildfire coordinator on board, we're really starting to think through, like, how can we build out this CWPP vehicle so that it really does serve a lot of interests? And, you know, some of the things we're interested in hearing back from you guys are like, does it make sense to build a programmatic EIR into part of this so that basically you're ending up with shovel-ready projects? Or does that place additional limitations on projects that otherwise might have been exempt and easier to implement? Like there's kind of all these different aspects. And so from those of you that have engaged in a lot of these projects, we're interested in better understanding opportunities and constraints for building out the CWPP in different ways.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was thinking, yeah, my question's kind of fueled just by putting the network, but YFN into the context of everything we're talking about and the ways that it can help and be, you know, just integration of resources and what that's going to look like, which yeah, it's going to unfold, I think, over the next little while, but it's exciting. I mean, it's really, it sounds great. And it sounds like you, the way you're thinking about it is going to be easy for others to kind of contribute, like you're talking about priorities and projects and things like that. Awesome. Does anybody else have any other comments before we switch over to Kathy? Okay, great. Well, thanks so much, Alex. That was really helpful. Appreciate it. And Kathy, I'll hand it over to you.
Hi, my name is Kathy LeBlanc. I'm the Executive Director of Cantonville Community Partnership. Like I already said, I'm going to talk a little bit about Forest Biomass Business Center. I'm going to start with how a small nonprofit got involved in such a big entity, a big job. And then Lindsay is going to take over when we get into the nitty gritty. Lindsay is the project manager and has been working steadily on this project since 2019. We do have our original project manager is here today with us. That was Chris Friedel. Hey, Chris. And we started this project first time we went to a Fire Safe Council meeting, Yuba Fire Safe Council. And there was a presentation about how bioenergy facilities could help with reducing forest, increasing forest health and everything that we know that is needed in the area around forest biomass. When at the end of that presentation, I sort of raised my hand and said, Kemptonville might be a good location for this. And we had a feasibility study done shortly after that. And the Kemptonville area had 3 of the top locations for these small forest biomass facilities. Then in 2012, California Senate Bill 1122 passed, and that bill really talks, made the forest biomass endeavor a little bit more affordable. What it did was it set aside 50 megawatts of electricity that the large electric companies had to set aside the electricity for, and they had to be all the biomass that came from that had to be sustainably managed forest management projects. We became more involved and actually started getting funding. I think one of our very first funding partners was SNC around this. So thank you, Chris and company around that. We are working in our community to develop this for a few reasons. One, obviously, is to reduce the threat of catastrophic wildfire by working within a 50-mile radius of the plant, so that it gives the folks that live in Yuba County and up in, Kemptonville is located between Sierra County and Nevada County. So we are just a thin sliver. So we really touch 3 counties with this project. We became involved in it because it just felt like a good fit for our community. We needed the economic recovery from the demise of the logging industry. So this project will create livable wage jobs with benefits. There's many good goals that connected to the work that CCP already has done. This Senate bill actually allowed us to make the project more affordable. The large electric companies, in our case it's PG&E, is mandated to purchase up to 3 megawatts of our electricity that we're going to produce. Our project at one point in time, at the beginning, started at the Celestial Valley site, but it was not the best choice. The interconnection was really high. These projects have to connect to the PG&E grid. You have to pay to connect to PG&E. So our price for that project at that site was over $3 million of interconnection. There were some other issues with that site, so we really didn't pursue it any further once we got that interconnection bill, and we didn't get a bill, but we got the estimated cost of interconnection. So we moved our site to a greenfield site that is right underneath the transmission lines of PG&E, thinking, okay, this is going to be lots cheaper. Well, our last estimate of interconnection is $2.6 million. We saved a little bit, but we're hoping to save more as we go on. PG&E, at the current price, PG&E is mandated to pay 19.9 cents a kilowatt. So about 20 cents a kilowatt. These are not favorable PG&E projects because they are mandated to pay more than they would for other type. But as we all know, getting the forest biomass out of the forest and into these small facilities is a win-win for the folks that live in the area and beyond. So we have worked diligently, like I said, on this project since about 2012. I think we got our first grant was about 2014, and I believe that's probably when Chris came on. We are working, with our community, with all of our partners. We're part of the North Yuba Forest Partnership. I don't know if any of you probably have seen those maps for the North Yuba Forest Partnership. And if you can envision it in your eye, our plant will be facilitated just south of Bullard's Bar on Marysville Road. So well within the 50-mile radius of the work that's being done in the North Yuba Forest Partnership. Camptonville is a small nonprofit. We're a little bit bigger now because with this project, it's built our capacity and our ability to do this great work for the community. Lindsay, can you maybe go to the next slide? Project overview. I'm going to let Lindsay take these and let you know a little bit more about our project.
Thanks, Kathy. Thanks everyone for having us here today and share a little bit more about where we are with the project. The Forest Biomass Business Center, our kind of anchored right now is what Kathy said, the 3.5 megawatt facility, biomass facility that we think will be really helpful and useful to the local community for jobs, wildfire safety, as well as the larger partnerships that are happening in the work that is going on to do more forest management projects, forest restoration projects that we heard earlier, as well as with the North Yuba Forest Partnership. So we really hope to be a supporting partner and help that this facility will help, utilize where to take that biomass and slash that's coming off from these great projects and to clear them out of the forests and to create something sustainable and green with them. And we hope that this anchor tenant that starts the Forest Biomass Business Center is just one of many that utilizes forests, but this is where we're starting at. Because of SB 1122 and the great work that Kathy and Chris and others have been part of and supporting for a while now. And we've really have come quite a long ways in the last couple of years, but just a quick overview on what the facility will be is, or for the power facility will be is power generation with direct combustion boiler and steam turbine. If you're in this field, there's a lot of other technologies, but in our feasibility when we did a study for what would be the best technology to utilize for this facility, and direct combustion actually turned out to be one of the tried and true with the kind of biomass and fuel that we'll be utilizing at the facility. So we picked that type of power generation based upon the local fuel sources that we have. We expect that it will consume about 38,000 bone dry tons of biomass annually. So about 6 to 8 trucks of biomass a day, and supports 3,000 acres of forest land treatment per year. So a lot. So, we know that we're just the start and we'll need a lot more of these projects and hope there are others that come on board so we can help support all the projects that are happening, and which will be a lot more than what this facility can take. Again, I'll produce 3.5 megawatts of renewable energy. We're going to sell 3 of it to PG&E, as Kathy had mentioned, at a subsidized rate through PG&E. And that is a 20-year contract. So through that contract, in getting that increased rate per kilowatt that we're selling, will hopefully really offset the cost of building it and keeping it going for 20 years. We then, talking about the larger view of not just the facility, but having it be a forest biomass business center where biomass can be dropped off there and utilized for many businesses, not just a bioenergy facility. We see that a sawmill, seasoned firewood, animal bedding, wood pellets, greenhouse is really some things that would make sense to be co-located at this center. We kind of got a little jumpstart kick in 2020. In 2017, we applied for a grant through the Energy Commission. It was $5 million. In 2020, we actually got under contract with it, which helped really kind of launch things forward. It took that long because of a couple of reasons. We moved locations, like Kathy mentioned, through that time, as well as PG&E went through the bankruptcy, and they kind of held off on the Energy Commission held off on these grants for a little while. But in 2020, we got a grant that really helped solidify moving this project forward, as well as ensuring that we get key technologies, and this project will be very innovative on how the system is set up so that we are meeting and exceeding all environmental standards and utilizing, very minimal water consumption, as well as minimal emissions being emitted through running this power plant. So through this grant, we'll ensure to utilize tried and true technologies that we're putting together for the first time, coupling them together to really reduce any environmental impacts that we'll have running through this facility. And then, like Kathy mentioned, our project is about 1 mile, 2 miles south of New Buller's Bar, which is, just at the very bottom of the North Yuba Forest Partnership large landscape projects. That's 275,000 acres that is being coupled together, as you guys all know, coupled together to do multiple projects at a large scale. You can see we are right now going through some adjustments with our general preliminary design and engineering. So this map on the right-hand side shows you what is needed for the facility and technically where it'll be, or kind of where it will be placed. But we're going through some changes now. So these, all these things are needed, but again, this, at the end of the day, when it actually gets built, this might be configured a little bit differently, but gives you an idea of what the facility needs to run and how it'll be set up. And then just we are really at the very end of our key milestones before we go into pull all the money together and start building. We've done feasibility studies, economic studies, and planning. We've done conceptual engineering and actually preliminary design and engineering. We're finalizing that right now, and it'll be done at the end of August. As I mentioned, we've done field specification studies. We have our CEQA conditional use permit. We also secured our air permit authority to construct permit. We have our power purchase agreement completed with PG&E, so they have agreed to buy the power that we will sell. We've secured over $7 million of grant funding for this project already, but you know that these projects are very expensive, so we have quite a bit of ways to go with financial close, and that will be happening in the next 3 to 6 months. And then one of the big things that happened just the other week is that we were able to sign and execute a land purchase agreement with the landowner that our facility was sitting on. to purchase the whole parcel, which is 100 acres. So we have 11 acres that we'll utilize for our bioenergy power facility, but then we'll have roughly 90, not all of it is usable land, but roughly 90 acres to house other businesses. So that is really exciting for us. Before, it was just a lease agreement with the landowner for partial land of the actual parcel. So to own and be able to control and develop a whole 100 acres for the community and for this business center is really a big deal. It pretty much gives us, you know, our opportunities of what type of businesses that we could have co-located have grown significantly when we have that much space. So we are very excited about that. As I said, we're going through preliminary design and engineering. It'll be completed on August 31st. This will be big because, as you know, with COVID and with supply chain issues and cost and inflation, the cost of the plant has been fluctuating. So August 31st, we'll have a specific final number of what the total cost of the plant will be. And from there, we can go ahead and execute a contract with an engineering, procurement, and construction contractor, so an EPC contractor. We'll have the long-term agreement with them to build the facility. Right now, we do have an EPC on board doing the preliminary design work and other tasks for us, but we won't be able to sign a long-term agreement with them until we get the information that we're working on right now through the preliminary design and engineering, including the overall cost of construction of the facility. We have fuels contracting. We have a proposal for the majority of the feedstock that'll be needed to run the facility, and working out the details. We'll be working out the details of making sure that is coming from the local projects. And then also leaving a little room to directly contract with local timber operators and whatnot in the area, to have them be able to drop off and for us to be able to purchase the biomass that they are creating through their forest management projects in the area. So the fuels contract will be 5 to 7 years. And this is something big that we're just continuing to work on to ensure that we are doing the most that we can and having beneficial contracts for the facility, as well as projects happening on the North Yuba Forest Partnership landscape, as well as other local projects that are happening. So while we're set to go on a contract that will help us that'll help us start off and to ensure that we'll have feedstock coming in that will keep the plant running. Fuels contracting, if you guys know that arena, it's difficult. And so it's something that we're committed into working on to ensure improvement for our facility in the future and the projects around in our area, but hopefully, throughout the state as well. And then lastly, once we get all the information, we'll go to build together the financial package that will be able to afford and pay for the whole construction of the facility and go into construction. And right now, working off of the August 31st deadline date, we see that being the end of Q2 of 2023, beginning of Q3 of 2023. And so, again, I think we are working on our conversion permit. And I think that's the last thing that we need before we can actually put shovels to the ground at the site and get to building. The conversion permit, financial close, get the shovels on the ground. And I just wanted to go over, I know I mentioned it before, but with this group, I wanted to really hit on our land agreement because there is so much opportunity, and we do want to start having conversations with potential for people that have ideas. If you guys have ideas, or if you know somebody that has a business that might benefit from co-locating with us. But again, we have 100 acres, 11 of it is for the project, the bioenergy project. The project itself will produce electricity that will sell to PG&E, but we'll also have heat, steam, and a little bit of electricity to share on site. So if there's businesses that needed heat, steam, or electricity, we could supply some of it to them. And then we have some interest from groups to do a sawmill already, but again, like Pellets Food Hub are also great co-located businesses that could utilize steam and heat and electricity that we're thinking of, and that would be good fit for the larger community as well. But yeah, just wanted to put that out there one more time, because we'd be open and interested in having conversations with folks that you think would be a good fit for the center. And that's it for us. Thank you for everyone. Thanks for having us today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was super informative and very exciting. I'm really glad to get updates about the project. I, of course, hear about what's going on with NYFP meetings and everything, but I'm learning more and more about the details, and especially with the land acquisition, super exciting progress being made. I think I have a question just to start off that I'm wondering, and this is kind of like a social question, is if you've noticed much, I don't know about increase, but if you feel like you're expanding in as far as how far outside of Camptonville it seems like people are becoming aware of the project, and if you if you feel like there's outward movement, I guess, into people inquiring about it or getting in touch with questions or things like that.
Yeah, I think that this project's been along for been going for a long time, so I think we are going out more now that we have some significant movement and are a little closer to financial close and getting it built, because it's kind of a chicken and the egg thing, I think, for a lot, especially with co-located businesses and with fuels contracting too, is yeah, I'll commit to giving to you, but when are you going to be up and running? And are you sure you're going to be up and running and stuff like that? So that is, I think we've been more cognizant of going out into meetings and sharing information. And that's one of the ways that we got in touch with a potential sawmill to be located on site. So we are seeing the benefits of doing that. And so, yeah, I think that it's something that we'll be doing more of as we move forward and we're getting closer into construction and then going forward with construction, because we will be simultaneously working on getting the permitting and getting the site ready for co-located businesses. And is Kathy, do you want to, I don't know if you would like to share anything on that.
Well, the only thing I was going to say is that, those recent articles that were printed, is it the New York Journal? I'm not exactly sure the name of it, that highlighted the North Yuba Forest project, also highlighted our project. I believe it was the third installment. So folks are realizing the depth that a forest restoration takes. I think some people had a sort of simplistic view of what forest restoration meant, but I think they're seeing the complexities. And we had a great quote from NFF, I believe it's Clark Carson. He said, that our project was the missing link to the North Yuba Forest partnership work, because of you need a plant to take this biomass to, and otherwise you have to go all the way up to Honey Lake, or you're going down to Rockland and different places like that. So we're anxious to get it going. We're excited about getting it going. The other piece that just happened recently is that Camptonville Community Partnership is the originator of the project, but back in, I'm not even sure, before 2020, we developed a C Corp, the Forest Biomass Business Center. It's the name of that C Corp. And we have an opportunity to reach out and look at who else wants to be part of that business campus. So that is an exciting development, as Lindsay stated. So yeah, if anybody is interested in knowing more about that business campus, and thank you, Lindsay, it's a national journal. If there was anything more about that business campus that anybody's interested, please feel free to contact us.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Yeah. And yeah, that's Kathy, definitely kind of what I was getting at is I'm wondering if people are understanding more and more, not even just like within our region, but really just more broadly this across the state, across the West, like how incremental this kind of project is to the success of large landscape scale forest projects. And it does seem like that's becoming more apparent, but like on a governmental scale too, I'm hoping that we're just finding ways to really get that point across, which I think we are. And I hope that we're supporting groups like yours and doing that. But it really is, like Carson said, the missing link. So yeah, I appreciate you sharing on it and sharing that journal article, which I'll make sure to share with the meeting notes as well. Excellent. Any other comments before we go to a wrap up? Awesome. Okay, great. Well, so we only have a few minutes left in a smallish group, so we're going to kind of forego doing any kind of breakout sessions, but I did kind of want to wrap up with just some final, call for input on some of the resources that we've managed for Yuba Forest Network in the past. We talked about the stakeholder mapping tool and our plans to revamp and keep that moving forward and find new ways for application for that, but I'm thinking more along the lines of our newsletter, which was, I believe, kind of a bi-monthly newsletter. I sent one out, kind of a newsletter of events and updates early June for June and July. I have not sent it yet for August, September. And then also the calendar, the events calendar on the website. So those two things are getting, along with the mapping tool, kind of a revamp as we reinvest resources towards those. But I just wanted to kind of reach out for feedback and see if anybody has any opinions or thoughts or ideas on how to make those tools maybe not more valuable, but how to, if they are valuable, if there is a shared need for those, or if there's kind of different things that could be shared through the group on a regular basis that people think would be really helpful. Just happy to have any feedback from that, just so that we can make the resources that we have as as usable as possible. So any thoughts or opinions there, please feel free to share.
I mean, I definitely found the newsletter to be very helpful. So I just want to give you that feedback that it's been a useful tool.
Yeah, I was going to second what Chris said. And I don't know if I necessarily feel like it needs to be sent out to me if that's administratively tough, but knowing that you guys were going to post that information, I think for my personal purposes would be just as valuable if I knew oh, I can go to the YFN page and there will be the current information and links up there. I enjoyed looking and being able to see kind of what other people were up to and what different opportunities there were to engage.
Okay, excellent. Positive feedback. I like that. Great. Any other thoughts there? Okay, awesome. Well, that's kind of it for my end. We did kind of cover everything on the agenda, and thank you guys for the presentations. I think those were excellent and really, really informative for everybody in the group. So we will make sure to get out all of this relevant information we talked about with the meeting notes, as well as stay in touch about, like we mentioned, the process for updating that stakeholder mapping tool and what we'll need from the groups that want to be represented there, and how requests for that information will work and how to share it and everything like that. So keep your eyes open for that in the next few weeks or so. And if there are any other questions in the meantime, please feel free to reach out to myself or Anne-Marie. So as mentioned, Anne-Marie will be taking over facilitation at the next meeting, which will be in November, which actually reminded me, I wanted to just, again, kind of poll the group if people were interested in an in-person meeting for the network meeting, since they're quarterly, or a hybrid option. But since I know some of us are located kind of nearby, I just wanted to see if people thought that would be a good idea and if they'd be interested in something in person in November. So you can share now, you can reach out and email me and let me know. I think it'd be fun. I think it's always great to have an in-person meeting if possible. So I think we're going to try and get that planned, and then we'll go from there. Okay, well, great. That's it for me. Any other last minute thoughts? Anything, Anne-Marie, you want to share from the notes taken?
Yes, we are going to be sending out a new, if we're doing it via Zoom again, we'll be sending out an entirely new invite for that. That will include, yeah, like probably myself as the coordinator and everyone, of course, in the email. So we'll just like, if the old Zoom link will not still work. So we'll just restart again, if that makes sense.
Yeah, same time, and it'll be Fridays at 10 a.m. but the organizer is still Mary, so we're going to fix that so that we resend out an updated version. All right, well, I think that's it. Thank you guys again for joining and for presenting. I really appreciate it. I hope everyone got some valuable information out of those presentations, and we'll be in touch again soon. And thanks a lot, and have a great weekend. See you guys later.
Hey, everyone.